Good afternoon. We're here for 5 Minute Friday from the Kentucky History Center in Frankfort, Kentucky. We've been here hosting a working group on college affordability, and we've had Dr. Sandy Baum with the Urban Institute talk with us about her research on college affordability as we work to provide a definition for post-secondary affordability as we move forward in the state, looking at investment in post-secondary. Dr. Baum, can you talk just a little bit about your research around college affordability, your findings, and takeaways for a state like Kentucky?
Sure. So college affordability is a huge issue for many students and families and for the state in its efforts to increase educational attainment and give people opportunities to live productive lives. But college affordability is not that easy to define and not that easy to measure. A lot of people think, oh, it's just the tuition price, but it's not just the tuition price because many students, first of all, don't pay the full tuition price, they get financial aid. Financial aid makes college much more affordable for many people. But asking about affordability is not really just a question of how much you have to shell out to pay for college. It's a question of what it is that you're getting for your money. So a cheap college education is not affordable if it turns out not to have high value. If you're not going to graduate, if you're not going to be able to get a job, then it wasn't affordable in retrospect. An expensive college education may actually end up being more affordable because of the doors that it opens for you. So to understand college affordability, you have to know what resources people have available, how much they have to pay, and what the value of their education will be for the rest of their lives.
Excellent. And you made an important point in our working group conversation, just reminding folks that college education, a college degree, is an investment an individual makes over their lifetime. And so thinking about it in that way, much like the way we think about buying a house, is important.
It's really true, and no one thinks, oh, I should pay for the house this year out of my income. They think I'm going to borrow money and I'm going to pay for it over the years that I live in the house. People even borrow money to buy cars, which don't last for very long. So thinking about paying for college over time, saving money in advance if you can afford to do that, paying while you're in college and borrowing money and paying it back later is a very reasonable way to pay for this long-term investment.
Excellent. That said, speak to the issue of income inequality and its impact on affordability, particularly today.
So one of the things that makes it harder for people to pay for college is the paths that incomes have taken over time. If you look at the way income is distributed in our society, the people at the top of the distribution have most of the income. So it's really a problem. People talk about the top 1%, but it's the top 5%, it's the top 20%. If you look at the incomes of people below the middle, below the median, their incomes have really stagnated over time, and they have a smaller and smaller share of total income. So you have a few families at the top of the distribution who are doing just fine, can pay for college quite easily, not a problem. We shouldn't be worried about them. But then you have the vast majority of families whose incomes are no higher than the incomes of people a few years ago or 2 decades ago who were at the same place in the income distribution. That inequality is making it harder and harder for people to pay for college.
And thinking about that, would you say then for those families, for those students, it's even more critically important that they have the proper advising to choose a major that results in a valuable degree or certificate for them to really utilize in the labor force?
So it is very important that people have adequate advising. There are institutions from which almost no one graduates. There are programs that are really not suitable for certain students. So students do need a lot of advice about where to go, when to go, what to study, but we don't want students to just try to maximize their incomes. It is true that people who graduate with degrees in engineering tend on average to have higher incomes than people who graduate with degrees in early childhood education, but that does not mean that people who want to work with children should study engineering. There are lots of goals in life other than maximizing your income. We want to make sure everybody has an adequate income and that the degree pays off reasonably well, but not that it maximizes income.
Excellent point. We need lots of early childhood educators who are really focused on quality of brain development in the early years. So we certainly don't want to cut that off. Another point that you made earlier today, which really stuck with me, is the importance of academic and social supports for students as part of the affordability equation, part of ensuring that they not only attach to post-secondary, enter post-secondary, but complete, and how that impacts affordability.
That's absolutely right. I mean, it's so easy for people to think of 1 year and the price of 1 year of college as a measure of the cost of going to college and of how expensive it is. But the fact is that if you do not complete your college program, then you're likely to struggle afterwards. And for many students, it's just not that easy to do. They're perfectly capable of completing, but they need institutions that have the resources to support them academically, support them socially, give them guidance about how to get through in order to complete their degrees. And spending money on supporting students while they're in college, making sure that those resources are available to them, can actually be a bigger contributor to college affordability than just putting some money in their pockets or lowering tuition. It is terrifically important for students to complete degrees of value in a timely manner in order for college to have been affordable for them.
Sandy, thank you so much for your time here. Today, we hosted the first of what will be 4 working group meetings on college affordability with the goal of defining college affordability for Kentucky in hopes that that definition will help inform our investment strategy as a state going forward and allow us to increase attainment to meet the goals of the Council on Post-Secondary Education. And the Pritchard Committee's goals are aligned to those same goals. So thank you. We'll see you next week.